Hey everyone, looks like we are live. We made it to yet another Wednesday. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out. This is going to be part two of painting an angel in airbrush, and we're going to make her in color because last week we did a little bit of like, show of hands, and people really wanted to see it in color, so see her in color. So I'm very excited about that and sharing that with you all. So let's see who we have here. We have Colette. How are you, Colette? Great to see you. How is everything? Uh, Please be careful. There's a big hurricane, as you know, coming your way. It probably won't be a category 4. It'll probably go down to like a category 2 or maybe a 1 by the time it gets there. But please be careful. And anyone in the Florida area, please seek shelter. Much safer in numbers than alone if you can. Dan, how's it going all the way from Indianapolis? How are you today? Great to see you. Mr. Bobby, all the way from Cape Cod, how's it going? Great to see you, Bobby. We have Roy. How's it going, Roy? How's everything, fellow New Jersey man? And we have Raul, another fellow Jersey guy. So 3 Jersey guys so far. Great to see you, Raul. And we have Patty all the way from Illinois. How are you today, Patty? So I'm so glad you're here. That's very exciting. So I'm very excited that you are here. And let's see. We have Mr. Steve Leahy all the way from Ohio. How are you today, Mr. Leahy? Great to see you. So glad you are here. And let me just make sure this camera is working while I say hello to anyone I've missed. Let's see. Maybe we'll put it. I'm trying to figure out what's a good spot for this camera. Maybe over here. Okay. So yeah, so this is fantastic. So it's so cool that you all are here to hang out, and so this is going to be a little interesting live stream because I'm going to put more detail into this live stream, into this painting, and I may end the live stream early because then I'm going to shellac it because we have to get ready for it to accept color. So when I work in black and white, do my black and white India ink paintings, I don't do anything to the paper. It doesn't need it because I'm not going to clear coat it. And what you do is when you have the painting in airbrush and India ink, all you have to do is frame it with a matte under glass and it's going to last forever. But not so much when you're working with color. I like to basically clear coat it or varnish it because when you're working in color there's going to be shiny patches and dull patches and it looks terrible. So that's why I'm sort of thinking like a chess player, 6-7 moves ahead. So after I'm happy with this to a certain extent, then I'm going to shellac it. What a coat of shellac does, it allows me to do anything on top of that paper, whether it be acrylic, oil paint, airbrush, anything. So it's nice and impermeable, I think that's the word. And also, it will accept a varnish or a clear coat. So that is the main thing of, why I'll shellac it. So tonight, towards the end of the live stream, we're going to go ahead and shellac the painting, if that sounds cool. And so that's cool. And yes, Mr. Bobby won, so congratulations. That's fantastic. So how cool is that? And yes, Mr. Steve is doing his really amazing painting of Tokyo on his YouTube channel, which is fantastic. And I'm going to take a swig of Polar Half and Half. This stuff is really good. It's natural grapefruit and lemon flavor, so I really love it. And let's see. I think that's everybody. If I forgot somebody. Dwayne, Mr. Dwayne, how's it going? San Luis de Obispo. Go Banana Slugs. No, go Mustangs. How are you today, sir? Have you been following the Mustangs football season so far? Oh, that's good. Okay, so very cool. So now let's go ahead. I have these cups, they're used, so they go in the receptacle. And now I have these cups, which are great. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1-to-1 my detail mixture with water, because I want to go super light, you know, which is very, very important. And so very cool. So now I'm going to go get the water, which is over here. But you know what? The water gets really nasty, so I'm just going to clean this. I'll be right back. That was fast. Okay, so we have our water, and we are going to get my detail mix, and it's available at inkflingers.com. Allows you to do underpaintings like this. No other paint is going to do what this does, by the way. So let's do 1-to-1. I picked up the airbrush prematurely. 1-to-1 is really nice because when you're painting this light, you have incredible control, and that I love, which is really fantastic. So you want to turn the air conditioning on here, so you might hear a little bit of a hum. Sorry about that. But what I hate most in hums is me sweating. So there we go. And I'm going to look for my plastic palette knife and just go like this. And I need a paper towel. I also work in oils pretty much, you know, 50-50 now. And so I got to make sure that I separate my oil paper towels from my paper towels that I use for water base, because they don't like each other, and that's not good. And oh, okay, so too busy to keep up on the football. I mean, that's really good though, you know. Busy is good. I hope it's a good busy. And now we'll just take this here. So cool, Mr. Bobby, that you won. That his paintings are just so amazing, really. Just incredible stuff. So let me get my reference out and get rid of me. No one needs to see me, that's for sure. And let's see. Open this up. And there she is. I think this is her. Let me see. Nope, that's not the one. Close. Okay, great. So now I have my reference to look at, and I could look at you fine people. Oh, yes, one of these days. Definitely, Mr. Bobby. I appreciate that. And okay, so now let's go ahead and just continue working on this beautiful angel here. And so the shellac is going to be very interesting. The shellac is a very important aspect to my process, because the way that it works is that I'm setting up for the ability to varnish later. Because when you're working in color, whether it's acrylic or airbrush or casein or what have you, there's going to be a difference in when you're working on something that's absorbent, like paper. To a certain extent, you're going to have glossy and dull patches, right? So when you go ahead and do a clear over it, it really makes it so much better. And Mr. Dwayne says he did make it to the Oakland A's game the other night, one of the last in Oakland. Was that the one against the Yankees? Mr. Mark, all the way from Calgary, how are you today, sir? How is everything? I think I got it right in Calgary, right? Is that where you are? So that is great. So I'm so glad you're here, Mark. If I got the location wrong, please forgive me. Sometimes it, for whatever reason, takes me longer for certain locations. So we have some, some detail in her hair, right? I'm not going to say to myself, well, I'm just going to paint that later. No, you want to get as much detail and accuracy at all stages of your painting. There's never a reason. Hey, Mr. Dave, how's it going, my friend? Great to see you. How are you, sir? So glad you're here. That is great. Dave from Texas. And Calgary, yes, so cool. So I did get Calgary right. That is amazing. So fantastic. Now, everything should be in Texas today according to tracking, Mr. Dave. So I'm not sure if it did arrive. So cool. And we'll talk about the first class, Dave, definitely. Definitely via email the next couple of days. This way we'll both be on the same page. But I always make sure that it's at your convenience, sir. So that's important. Colette is here. I'm so glad she's here. And so I said hello to Colette earlier. But it's always great to see Colette. Hey, how's it going, Jimmy McVeigh? How are you? I'm so glad you're here. Jimmy, where are you from? What part of the country? And thank you so much for checking us out. And so I'm very excited about that, sir. And so that's always so exciting, when we have, new people coming and joining in and this community just growing. So that makes me happy, Jimmy. And welcome. And just a great bunch of people here. Alabama, be careful, my friend. I know that the hurricane's coming. Hopefully it'll scoot past you. Mr. Dwayne, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I really appreciate your support and your friendship and all your amazing, amazing insight on Wicked paint, because she's going to be done in Wicked. So we're going to do the Lifeline colors and then Wicked on top. So always relying on Mr. Dwayne for his Wicked knowledge. So that's always so important. And Tone, how's it going all the way from Queens? How's everything? Tone, I lived in Queens for several years. I went to junior high school 10 in Jackson Heights. Now, what junior high school did you go to there, Tone? So, Jimmy, once again, so glad you're here. Dave, I'm so glad you're here, sir. Looking forward to working with you. And so that is all fantastic news. And once again, Dwayne, thank you so much for that super chat. I really appreciate you. That is so cool. And I won't mistake the Mustangs for the banana slugs, or vice versa. I love college football, by the way. So much more exciting than the pros, in my humble opinion. It's amazing how different things, that people are talented in give more money or less money, right? Gloria, how you doing? I was just thinking about you. How's everything? Gloria used to be my neighbor for many years, and I miss Gloria. I miss our conversations in the hallway, and so I just want you to know I miss you very much, Gloria, and I'm so glad you're here. And so Tone was living in Brooklyn. Now JHA 180 in Rockaway Park in the Rockaways. Oh, okay. Is that junior high school 180? Okay. Are you too, Gloria? Definitely. So that is so wild. So, yes, that makes me feel good to see Gloria. And I'm just going to paint her hair. And so recently I've been staying in an area longer, right? So in this hair I may stay a little bit longer to make it look much better than if I was in the past. I might move around a lot more. So you're going to see I move around a lot less when it comes to detail, you know? And it was back in the 70s and 80s, yes. I was in the early 80s. I went to junior high school in New York City, and then I got into the High School of Art and Design and did high school out in Manhattan, and then I did art school in Manhattan. That's where I got this New York accent. I guess I can't get rid of it, but I don't want to get rid of it. We sound tough, even though some of us aren't tough. You know, like me. I'm not tough, but I do sound tough. And you know, it's great with this detail mixture because I could really just take my time and slowly darken things. You don't want to be a cowboy. You want to darken things slowly. Slow it down to speed up. I heard someone say that that's what Drew Blair says in his classes. Slow down to speed up. And I love that. I think that's exactly what I mean. Oh, Colette says, how close is your airbrush to the painting? So interesting, wonderful question. So when I'm doing detail, like in the hair, I'm really close, like maybe a half an inch away, because I'm doing detail. But with that being said, if I am that close, that means I'm moving faster. I'm not staying in the same spot, and I'm moving before I start with the air, right? So I'll be going here, moving before I start with the air, which is so crucial, right? To move, because if I stay in one area, I'll get either barbells, which you'll have a dark, a light, and a dark at the end. But when you start the airbrush, you move and then let go. So you're always moving, and I may lower the air on the pack valve, right? You know, this little precision air control here. And that will allow me to have much better control and much cleaner values, and it just makes for better and sharper airbrush work. So right now I am darkening but adding some detail. A lot of this is going to be really subdued once I put the shellac over her, right? Once I'm done and I'm coming in with the shellac. But there will be indications of what I did here. So it's best to have too much detail and lose detail and bring it back than not have enough detail and going fresh, not having that knowledge of how things happen. If I put too much detail here, the worst possible thing that could happen is I have to paint it over, but painting it a second time usually means you're going to do a better job, right? And so that's important, right? So you always want to err on being more thorough and doing a little more work when it comes to art. Do a little more work, look a little longer, uh, study your model a little longer, you know, make sure that everything's in working order a little longer. And when you're painting, you want to paint in an area a little longer. So I guess that's the theme for today, a little longer, right? Longer is better, you know? And so that's very important. So wonderful question, Colette. Thank you so much. That is great. Gloria, how is Yvonne and everyone doing? DJ and Christian, how is everyone? Please tell them I said hi. And I like the idea of it kind of fading out here because there is sort of an ethereal beauty about her. So I'm going to opt to kind of have a beautiful kind of reflected light glow coming from her left. Oh, fantastic. Super busy is good. Is it a good super busy? I hope. And I have this beautiful reference image that I'm working from, which is very nice. Ah, good busy is a great busy, so I love hearing that. You know us in the Midwest, I mean in the Northeast, everyone's busy no matter who you are here. If you're not busy, you'll get run over. I'm in Jersey and it took me 10 minutes to find a parking spot. Isn't that something? And just having a good time here. Take your time. So with my customized Extreme Patriot Arrow, I can get any kind of lines I want. I can go in there deep. I could sketch. And that's what you want in any airbrush. You know, the custom microns are really nice and beautiful, but can you sketch with it? That's the question, right? I like to have an airbrush where I can pretty much use it for almost everything that I do, right? And that's why I like this airbrush, is that it's an old person. It's like having a, this is like having an HB pencil or an F lead where I'm able to just basically use it for everything. Oh, I'm doing okay, Gloria. Thank you so much. You know, working hard, trying to stay positive, uh, you know, and just pushing myself to get better. And that's what I'm, you know, that's how I've always been, right, Gloria? Just never satisfied with where I'm at. Can I push it further? Can I do something a little more, a little bit better than I was last week? And that's my goal. And I tell my students that always. As long as you're better than you were a month ago, that you are, you don't have to worry about what anyone else is doing. Art-wise, of course. Ah, thanks, Gloria. Okay. I'm going to darken it because remember I'm putting shellac on it, so I may go a little darker than I would normally go in the past for a underpainting. So I may go a little bit stronger, but not in all the areas because I still want to condense the values, but where it is significantly dark, I want to make sure that I handle my business with that, right? So I'll come over here, right here. Now I am really up close, right? So I'm going to lower my precision air valve here, right? And we're just going to look for a second and paint for the second. Can someone tell me what that rule is? The regulars out there. You know, you all know what rule that is. Oh, great question, Mr. Tone. So, yeah, the shellac comes at the end of the night because right now I'm completing the underpainting in India ink. So then, and I'm actually going to demonstrate tonight, which is kind of crazy, you know, but I'm going to demonstrate Shellac live, which hasn't been done before. Oh, on the 5th week with, oh my God, Gloria, you have shingles? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. How are you doing? I hope you feel better. I heard that's pretty painful sometimes. I hope it's not painful in your case. Oh, thank you, Gloria. Gloria says the angel is beautiful. I appreciate that so much. Just getting a little more detail in her beautiful eyes here. So, I don't want to make like super distinct uh, initial lines or marks with the airbrush. It's not the best tool for that. So I'm going to come in with my pencil, because I've been using the pencil longer than I have the airbrush. There we go. So let's go ahead and kind of bring this in. There we go. Much more happier with that. I don't want to get too dark. I still want to compress those values. It's so important to compress those values, right? And yes, Colette, the 1 second rule. So yes, so this is usually how it goes, Mr. Tone. I do the line drawing, then I do the underpainting in Airbrush India ink, and then I shellac it, and then I'll go over it either with airbrush and acrylic, and then oil painting, or in this case it's just going to be an airbrush painting. So this is going to be an airbrush painting both in illustration and wicked colors, so that's interesting. Definitely don't want to neglect my airbrush peeps out there. There we go. And Mr. Astral, how's it going? Great to see you from the UK. How's your son in Japan? So great to see you. How you feeling with your headaches? Hopefully better. Oh, thank you, Gloria. Gloria says she loves the angel eyes. I appreciate that. Yeah, it drew me to this painting. To when I seen this, I was like, I must paint this. You know, I really liked it. I love her peaceful expression. So my mantra lately is compression. So I compress the values to create even more of a beautiful picture. And that's what the 19th century French academic painters did. Uh, Bouguereau, Hamlet Tadema, William Waterhouse, all those cats, right? They all did that stuff. Okay, so now let's see. We can work on her lips, and I'm going to get rid of the pencil line. So this is the advantage. So why don't you use FW inks, or why don't you use this brand of inks or that brand of inks? Because only my Airbrush India inks out of everything can do this easily. Watch this. See how it gets rid of those pencil lines? All those other inks, that would not happen. You would have to damage that paper to, oh, so compression, Mr. Tone asked, so compression is compressing those values. as humans, we want everything to have contrast, even when there isn't contrast. It makes us feel comfortable. It's why one of the reasons why Caravaggio and the Baroque painters are so popular, because it was all about chiaroscuro, you know, the light and dark. So when you compress the values, you have to be much more technical, because when you compress those values, you're not using the darkest dark and lightest light to create contrast and to get those shapes rather easily. But by removing the darkest dark and the lightest light into your painting, it's very interesting, because what happens is, let's see if I can get this back. Okay. What happens is when you do that, you have to be much more technical with making things turn. So you don't have values 1 and 2 and 7 and 8. So you got to do all that between 3 and 6. So you have to be much more deliberate. And what that does is when you compress those values, you get the look of William Bouguereau, you get the look of Waterhouse and all those other amazing painters. And you're not relying on the strong lights and darks to get you home. You're relying more on anatomy, more on, you know, understanding form, what makes her forehead three-dimensional. Like right here we have her glabella, which is the indentation from the frontal bone going down to the nasal bones. So those are things that you have to pay attention to a lot more if you're going to make it three-dimensional, right? Oh, and Dave says he double-checked the package will arrive tomorrow. Oh, bummer. So I will get it on Monday when I return. I was hoping it might arrive today. Oh, man. So Monday, so we'll talk. So I have a lot of slots open that is convenient for you, sir. You tell me what time, and I'll make it happen for our first class. So thank you so much for that, Mr. Dave. So, yeah, you know, they get delayed. I think a lot of it has to do with the impending hurricane. I think they shut down a lot of the distribution centers or something. And also the weekend didn't help, right, Dave? So that's kind of a bummer. Uh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, you can see the compression of those values, and I'm going to explain it a little bit more uh, succinctly if I could find my color wheel. Yeah, that's weird, because usually my color wheel is like right at my fingertips, and right now it's not, which is really not like me. And I think the cat might have it. No, I hope not. Let's see. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, so just a quick note about dynamic range, right? Or compressing the values. So most paintings will use value 10 in the grayscale going all the way to value 1. But when you're compressing that value and you want that 19th century French academic look, you're going to probably go between value 6 and value 2. So that means, and you also have to make things turn, make things three-dimensional. So you have to work harder to do that. The advantages of this, it has a very three-dimensional look, and it just feels much more refined. And definitely, Dave. Thank you so much for your patience, sir. And so I'm glad Mr. Astral is getting better. So that's basically the compression tone, and so I've just been working on that lately, probably the last month or so, and it really has made a big difference in my understanding of the forms and making them three-dimensional. And so I've been looking at the work of, you know, artists such as, you know, Bouguereau, and I'm doing a master copy with a student right now of Jules Joseph Lafay, which is really exciting. He's a 19th century French academic painter, And that really is helping me to get an understanding of the correct use of compressing values. Okay, so now I am going to put this stencil on here because I want to paint her hair a little bit darker, and I also want to kind of accentuate the contour of the side of her face here. So I'm going to come a little bit darker, and we'll get our magnets here. I don't want to go crazy, I just really want to reiterate her face, you know. She has a beautiful zygomatic bone, which is nice and dark and beautiful, and so I definitely want to do that. So let's go ahead and put these magnets really close. So you have to put them really close. If you don't, you'll get underspray, which is just as horrible as overspray, right? So let's make that happen. And so we're going to put some magnets over here because on this side it's going to want to go under. Underspray and overspray are insidious enemies that you have to really be on top of it. So Tone says you're using lighter shades of gray for the darkest parts and darker for the lightest. Yes. And it forces you to really, work hard to make those forms turn to the light and away from the light. And it creates a much more sculptural painting. And realist painting at its zenith point is definitely the 19th century French academics, right? That's the highest level of painting. So the thought is that they really had a knowledge of what is not photorealism by any means, but a realism that makes us think of the human body not in terms of, you know, copying a photo, but really understanding the anatomy and making things three-dimensional by exaggerating those three dimensions just a little bit, by having those compressed forms. So let's say everything's really dark. You would have your dark, a midtone, and a light. But if you lighten up that dark and you darken up that light a little bit, then you have to find all those little values in between. And so you have to make that turn in a much more sensitive way. So it helps me to be a much more sensitive painter. And when you're painting women and a portrait of women, that's the most sensitive you have to be. So it really does lean into the subject matter that I do. And Tone says, is the saturation of color of your mixing lighter colors to paint with? Yes. So you definitely you want to err on desaturated colors, meaning more gray than the color out of the tube. So you're actually compressing the saturation as well. And you might ask yourself, well, how does that benefit us as painters? Because once you do paint that way, then when you're doing the later layers of painting, you can accentuate that by adding, you know, a punch of saturation, or adding that dark and or that light and highlight, and creating, you know, really, you know, explosive accents of color and light and dark, as opposed to having it look like a photograph. So it takes it to that next level. Oh, fantastic. On Saturday you said, is it the light in the shadows that really make the shadows? Words to that effect. Now I see light in, oh, wow, yes. So on Saturdays I'm going to do an oil painting live stream. So stay tuned for that. And it's the lights that are in the shadows that really kind of create the turning of the forms, right? And so that's so important. And so I was talking to a student today, And we were saying that the only time you're going to see black or really, really dark colors is in a dark room, because there's going to be light bouncing all around. So even in the side plane of her cheek and zygomatic bone, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of light in there, right, Dave? And so, and remember, think of the light as a dimmer switch, right? So it's most intense when it's all the way up to, let's say, make that 10, right? And that would be the light on her nose. That would be 10 all the way up. But when it starts turning and gets a little bit darker on her nose, then it might be an 8. And then when it goes to the side plane where it's pretty dark, it might be a 3. And so it's never going to be a 0. There's always going to be lights in the darks, unless you're painting in a dark room. And you're painting something in a dark room when no light or any kind of reflection is going to happen. So in most cases, there's going to be some light in that shadow. So my contention is this, that there really isn't a shadow, but a less powerful light. So the light in the side of her face, the shadow in the side of her face, is still light, but it's a lot less intense. Because what's happening is that even in the shadows, light is bouncing off of somewhere else in the room and coming back and hitting that shadow. So it's still an intensity of light in there. So only if it's like the darkest dark, are you going to, even when I paint her nostril, it's going to be a dark color with red in it. So it's not going to be a pure black, because there is some light in it. There's light bouncing off of her orbicularis oris, or her philtrum is still getting there. So there's still going to be a little bit of energy there, right? There's always going to be a little bit of energy. And light is energy. And what's really interesting is that, painting is the science of light, right? The painting of and photography. So one of the things I really recommend for anyone who wants to do portraits, figure paintings, I really highly recommend getting into photography if you have the means, and especially flash photography, because it's really going to teach you how to understand light. Like, if you have a flash and it's directly on the model, it's going to be super intense. But if you just turn that flash to the left just a little bit, it's going to be a lot less intense, and it's going to have a different quality of light, and what light does and how it changes in distance. It's really amazing. So highly recommend that. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate this area right here, and I'll lift this up. We'll see how good or bad it looks. And I'm really excited about this. I have Mr. Leahy out there and Dwayne. They can help me with their knowledge of Createx Wicked Paints. So I'm looking forward to that. Those guys are super, super intelligent. Not that we all aren't. And there we go. So a little bit more intensity, which is good. And no, see, that's the thing. So great question. So Tone says, do I use black and white reference when working in black and white? And I used to, and I think that's good for beginners. But as you get older in painting and have been painting as many years as I do, you see value in color pretty much the same way. So if I'm working from a black and white reference or a color reference, I'll still see the value in the same way, only because I was painting and trained and all that stuff. But for a beginner, I think it's really great to, if you're going to be painting a black and white underpainting, to see it in black and white. But someone like yourself who's painted many years, I don't see you needing that at all, Mr. Tone. So you can definitely see, I know you can see value in the colors correctly. So, but definitely someone beginning, I highly recommend. That's a great idea. Okay, so the bottom lip, her bottom lip is so elegant. And let's see if we can work this out here. So the bottom lip is slightly darker. And a lot of times I'll put magnets, even though I don't have any kind of stencils or anything on there, because you don't want your painting to move. Let me keep that focused. And we'll zoom out a little bit. Okay, that's pretty good. And now I'll get my reference. And the 1 second rule, you know, you're going to look for a second, and then you're going to paint for a second. Notice I'm not staying in that one area for too long. Now, it's quite dark here, so I am going to go a little bit darker. Now, how I paint the underpainting working in acrylic with airbrush and how I would approach it in oils are totally different. Oils, you don't have to worry about blue shifts or anything like that because you can go over that with opaque colors that would just cover that up really quite nicely. However, working in airbrush, I have to be a lot lighter because if I'm coming over this with red and it's too dark as far as gray, I'm gonna have maroon lips or cinnamon lips, and I don't want cinnamon lips. And so that's why red does not like having dark colors underneath it. It changes, it will shift to the purple because what is blue but a really dark black? So that's why you have to be a little more careful when you're working in oils, working in airbrush, because you're kind of walking on eggshells a little bit with how it reacts with the blue shift. So you do have to baby an airbrush painting, underpainting a lot more. And Astral says, Mr. Leahy, sorry I missed your stream tonight. Fell asleep in the chair. Oh, that happens to the best of us. And Tone says he should have been taking notes. No worries. And you can always watch this again, so that's good. And I'll leave it up here, so that's fantastic. And so right now I'm just kind of moving around. Like right here we have the wing of the nostril. You know, I don't have the technical term for the wing of the nostril. I should. I know it's a fat compartment surrounded by like a thick skin type of organism, you know, a form that is made of like thick skin, like our, you know, like the sides of our, like the platform of the lower lip. That's like a type of skin, like a thick skin, and that's something I really need a plastic surgeon friend who could really help me with that. I want to get back into really, I really want to be a real student of anatomy. I really got to go deeper with that. Mr. JC, how's it going? So Mr. JC says red will bleed really fast, even when saying big things. Looking great. The angel looks like Belinda, a Mexican singer actress. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate that spraying. Yeah, red is, I love red. I've only starting to get a handle on the color red in the last, I would say, in the last 6 months. Red usually kicked my butt because I didn't see it correctly. And so with my second stint, so out of all the mediums that I painted with, my knowledge of oil paint is definitely the most. I studied 8 years in oil painting, and I studied with the most amazing oil painters ever. And then I stopped oil painting. My dad got sick, and he had emphysema, so I went into pastels and then colored pencils, and then I went back into pastels, and then my dad passed away, and I basically stopped painting for 10 years. And when I came back, I went back into pastels, and I did that for the longest, and then I went into airbrush, and now I went back into oils, and it's all coming back to me. It's really wild. Astral says he started taking notes since 3 weeks ago. He typed them. Oh, how great! That's such an honor. You guys are taking notes. Thank you. JC says he needs to pre-write everything so there's less typos. And JC says, wow, Tim, hard hit. And so definitely, we definitely want to, use the different mediums and different knowledge of different mediums into our work if you can. And that's always fantastic. And if you work in one medium only, always try and innovate. Always try and by innovate meaning you're going to see different problems, different limitations in every medium. And, we all should be like, okay, I see that, airbrush has this limitation, or oil paintings has this limitation. How can I fix that limitation, right? Oh, JC says that somebody has a Tone has a photographic memory. Astral says, Tone says he was mopping floors and missed the first few minutes. Usually I can keep it in my mind. Oh, well that's good multitasking, right, sir? That's important. So I think we're going to do this until around 11. And then at 11, I'm going to take out the shellac and show you exactly how I do it. And then we'll go from there. Now, I can go darker here in certain areas, but that's the whole part of the whole, the whole thing of compressing the values, Dave says, as long as Tim doesn't require 100% on anatomy tests, I think we'll be okay. Just a few pop quizzes every now and then, Dave. No pressure. You just got to worry about the midterms. No, I'm kidding. No, I never ask anyone to know all the stuff that I know as far as anatomy because it's not as exciting to a lot of us, right? But just to see those landmarks and it's all to, as long as we see the landmarks. Hey, Mr. Brad, all the way from Manitoba. Great to see you. And JC is from the Atlanta area. Be careful with that hurricane coming. You and your family, my friend. And so John Augusto Domenigangra, my favorite painter ever. He was a 19th century French neoclassical painter. And he said about, and this is really cool, Dave, he said anatomy, the muscles and the bones, I don't know them, but they're good. I don't know their names, but they're good friends. Meaning that you don't have to know the orbicularis oris and the depressa anguli oris and the, all these different muscles, the temporalis and all of this. You don't, the occipital bone of the skull, you don't have to know them. But if you know what they are and where they are and how important they are and what they attach to and detach to, that's all you need to know, which is really cool. And JC says, thanks, yes, schools have been canceled for tomorrow and Friday. Wish they canceled work. Well, if it gets bad, you go home, I want you to be safe, Mr. JC, so please be safe. You too, Colette. You guys are in the eye of the storm coming up. Now, who else is in the Florida, Alabama, Alabama, we have someone just from Alabama in the beginning, so I want you to be careful as well, Just be super careful, please. That's so important. And you know, it's really scary. I've been through about 8 hurricanes in my life. One time, my sister and my dad, my mom was, this was years and years and years ago. My mom was up in Jersey, and it was me, my dad, and my little sister, and they both went to sleep, and I'm up by myself and watching my garbage can fly over my house. You know, so I've been through them, you know. So it's been pretty crazy. But yeah, they are scary. Gloria, if you're still here, Gloria was my downstairs neighbor at the time, and we watched our garbage cans actually start floating down the street. And that was unbelievable. Yes, park your car on a hill somewhere or in a parking garage on the top level. Something like that, if you can, is really important. And I speak from experience of that too. One of the hurricanes we had in the early, like around 2011, 2012, I parked my car at my company at the time parking garage at like the fifth floor, and that was really important to save my car. So that's a great thing. Yes, definitely. So JC, make sure you park your car like on a hill somewhere if there's any hills by you, which I hope there are. So remember, I have to treat this differently than oil painting because even when I'm working in Airbrush and I'm going over this with Createx, I'm going to have to get rid of those pencil lines sooner as rather than later. So I'm going to get my kneaded eraser. And so right here we have this line right here. Let me paint it in Airbrush first. And then I'm going to get rid of those pencil lines, right? And that's going to be super, super important. Oh, yeah, you're in flatland, just like Florida. There's no such thing as a hill in Florida, right? It was just like, I work 20 miles away. I can see the building. That's how flat it was in Florida. So this right here is all basically very light colors. So the whole idea of compressing those values, I'd rather work on that when I come in with the airbrush paints, right? So I'm going to get a they're both by Mono. This is the the Mono round 0, so it's really like a pencil. And here's, I think, is a 3.4, and this is the Mono Knock, so it's a little bit, they're basically made out of the same stuff, but since this is smaller, it's more pounds per square inch, meaning you're going to dig into the surface a lot more than this one. And let's see, JC says he means there's hills and mountains, but a few miles from the house, and I'm in a flood. Oh man, I'll be praying that you guys, your property's okay, and more importantly, you are all okay. So please be careful, my friend. So I'm going to come in over here, and I'm going to kind of get some of the landmark shapes of her wing here. Not going to go too crazy, just landmark shapes. And while I'm doing that, is getting rid of those pencil lines, because when it's so light like this beautiful white wing with the feathers, you don't want pencil lines because they will show up. And it's not a game changer, but it's the difference of winning first prize in a juried art contest and getting into an juried art contest, you know. So definitely So back in 2013, I remember it, I was talking with people on Facebook, and they were like, please be careful. And I'm living by myself, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. I have some orange chicken that I'm making, you know. So I got a whole chicken, and I was making orange chicken, and I was all ready to paint that night. And then all of a sudden, the lights went out, and then Hurricane Sandy, or Superstorm Sandy, destroyed this town that I was living in, and that was crazy. And we had no heat, no hot water. It was one of the coldest Octobers on record. It snowed in October that year. It was just maddening. And the National Guard was there, and the president. It was really some crazy stuff going on. Now, there are some areas where the larger knock won't get rid of that pencil line. So I'm going to use this one right here, and that's going to get rid of that pencil line. More pounds per square inch, right? It doesn't play. So the mono eraser, it's nice and small and cute, but it does play for keeps, so it will get rid of those pencil lines. Sandy oh yeah, the Rockaways was destroyed. It's just amazing how many houses and whole neighborhoods were just decimated. I think almost every car in Little Ferry was damaged in one way or another, and houses were pretty much condemned. So it was nutso. Uh-oh. This is a bad sign. Not a bad sign, but my mono is done and I don't have a refill. Let me see. Do I have a refill? That's the question. Let's see. I have a refill, so that is a good sign, not a bad sign. So here's my refill of the mono, and I'll show you how it works. So this comes out, or does this come? This comes out, right? So this comes out here, and then this pulls either this way. Oh no, this comes out and this stays in there. It doesn't pull out. And then you take this and you just put this in as so. Get in there. It doesn't want to go in. It's like 6 pounds bologna in a 5-pound bag. Why is this not going in? So it doesn't go this way, it goes this way. That's interesting. That should go. Oh, okay. So, so a little bit embarrassing. So now, you know, because this takes a long time for these things to run out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out. See, this is this part right here. And then what I'm going to do is take this, press this down, and push this up. And then it fits in. It should fit. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now we're all set. See that? Which is great. And now we're back in business, which is good. And so Colette says, JC, she's new to Georgia. Closest high ground would be the Blue Ridge Mountains. Oh my goodness. Yeah, here in Jersey it's pretty hilly. You know, lots of hills here. Astral says the first hurricane he was in, his wife woke him up to say that it was windy outside. Yeah, a little windy, right? And then told her off and went back to sleep. And that morning we were cleaning up the damage. Oh my goodness. You gotta listen to the missus. You do. Either, and then if you don't listen to the missus, you're gonna pay one way or another, right? That's exactly how that goes. And then Tone says he wanted to know how to refill those. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, so it's going to be another 2-3 months before, and I'll forget again. So you want to just do it from the bottom up. So that's probably the best way. And we have some other areas, like right here. So get rid of those pencil lines when you can. use the knock at first, and if the knock doesn't do it, then resort to the, of course, to the mono. So here's my thing. So you want to use the most delicate eraser possible. So you don't start out saying I'm going to erase this with this. You want to start out with this, or even better, start out with this, and then if you have to go more aggressive, you gradually go aggressive till you get exactly what you need. Oh, JC says need to go to the train ride around October in Blue Ridge. How cool! Must book online as they don't do walk-ins. These days are gone. Have you went on the train? Oh wow, that sounds really fantastic. Is that something you go to every year, you and your family, Mr. JC? I'm just gonna hit this shadow right along here. So I'm thinking like a chess player, right? So I'm thinking ahead and always knowing that, you know, don't paint exactly the way you want things. Paint as things will go, right? So a lot of things I'm not going too dark because that whole thing about stained glass, you want to have that glow on behind the colors when you put that on, so that's going to glow underneath and give this beautiful beautiful luminous quality. She's an angel, so she's glowing, right? So I have to even accentuate that. And JC says, no, Tim, when we went, we didn't have tickets. We're sold out, but people say it's nice. Oh, man. I hope you get to do that. That seems like a really nice family outing. That would be amazing. I love family outings. I just need to have a family, you know? Like, I have brothers and sisters, but my own family, so I don't have that. So I do miss that, you know? Having, you know, kids and a wife and, you know, all that stuff to do that, because that's like one of the more beautiful things in life, I think. Now down here, it's much darker. Now I'm not going to go dark because I want the saturation of the color to come down here. So here is another case of why you want to condense those values. Make it a little more cartoony and a lot less, you know, every single value, because it will hurt us in the long run, right? So here we have uh, this little bit of a pencil line here. So there are good things about using the white mixture in the early going, is that you get this glow. The bad thing is when you do erase, it gets much more accentuated because you're erasing the white. So, you know, every advantage is going to have a disadvantage, and it's up to us to go ahead and mitigate that, you know. What is worth it? Is this advantage worth the disadvantage? And that's basically how I paint, is I'm always looking, can I live with the disadvantage, or is this advantage of doing it this way, is it worth it? And that's exactly. And that's why every painting should be a learning experience. One of the things I've been talking to my students this week is the need for notebooks. Have a notebook. Write down what colors you mixed, what happened, what worked, what didn't work, what eraser was really crappy for what job, and then have it and you date it and what painting. And so let's say you have a notebook and this section could be just about this painting, and when you do that, then let's say you ask yourself, well, that was a really good color, how do I mix it? We've all been there. Oh my god, I forgot, what was the color mixture? Or how did I get rid of that pencil line last time or last month? You have it in your notebook. And there's other things, you know, like you see in World War II when the bombers would go on missions, and when they got back, they debriefed exactly what worked, what didn't work, how to fix it. All those different things are really important. Remember, painting is not like, hey, I did a painting and it's over. No, it's every painting is the same, is part of the larger body of work that we're doing. So that's why we need to take notes, so our work gets better and better, right? Not the particular painting, but the work as a whole gets better and better because we're learning by our successes that we wrote down, and our not so successful moments. I'm not going to say the failure word, and oh, I just said it. So not failures, but our successes, right? That's what we really want to concentrate on, and we're going to be more successful when we find out, you know, what happened. And if we have a string of things that happened that are similar, we can say, all right, how can we avoid this? What is something we can do to get on top of that, you know? And that is such an important aspect to painting. And I did a video of that. It's on my channel, this channel right here. And I think it was like in 2008 I did a video on that, or maybe even early 2009, but on the importance of taking notes. And if you work in color, you're going to need that, you know, because color mixing, you know, changes, you know. You might see color differently, but if you have your notes and you said, that was an amazing flesh tone, that was an amazing mid-tone, I want to do that again, and then you're like, I don't know how to do that again, right? But think of how cool it would be if you say, oh, in September I worked on that painting, let me find those notes. And once you take the notes, you can put it in digital form on your, you know, on your phone or on your computer, so you can have that categorized, which is fantastic. Now right here, it's all soft edge, so I'm not going to use a freehand shield when it's super soft edged, right? So I want a little bit of I want a little bit of overspray, right? Overspray is your friend if you want soft edges. So I love the way her shoulder is, and the kind of sassy the way she looks here. It's very cute. Now there is in her nose here. Let's zoom in, see if we could kind of get this super hard edge on her nose. And a lot of that, remember, it's the adjacent shapes that often describe the shape more than the shape itself. So I'm going to put this in, but to really get what's going on, it's going to be the adjacent shape that's really the white on our Orbicularosaurus that's really going to bring that idea home. But let's put that in nonetheless. Wipe your freehand shield before you put that on there. And of course, this is going to be painting in color, so it's going to be a challenge. But we'll do it together, right? We'll have our successes and our trials together, and that would be really cool. And so I'm excited. So we're going to paint until 11, and then we're going to shellac. And I think that's going to be a great culmination. So stick around. You have another, I don't know, another 14, 13 minutes. So stick around and we'll do the shellac. And I think that's going to be like super, super educational for you. So please stick around. You're not going to get that anywhere else. So this is definitely the place to be. And it's going to be live. You're going to see the brush I use. You're going to see the shellac I use. You're going to see how I apply it. So it's going to be great. So it's going to be worth it. Even though this is going to be recorded, and you'll be able to see it whenever, but the thing is, you will be able to ask questions as I'm doing it. Just compressing this value right here. Let's zoom out. This painting kind of has a pre-Raphaelite Burne-Jones feel to it, 19th century English painter. He's a pre-Raphaelite, the second generation of pre-Raphaelites. The first generation was Rossetti, Millay, Holman Hunt, right? The next generation was William Morris and Edward Burne-Jones. Those guys was the second generation, which is really cool. And Mr. Dave says he's had issues with noses. Better now. That's good. I was told only suggest the shapes of the nose instead of focusing on them. The nose is very interesting, and we're going to go over this, Dave, in our classes, because the nose, you got to look at the nose as a three-dimensional form that's sitting on another three-dimensional form. And once you do that and break it down into, okay, this is a round thing, and you just got to worry about the round thing. And so when you're painting that nose, you're just painting a cylinder with a ball on the bottom, and just kind of working on that. And we're going to have fun, and you're going to find that what was a weakness is now going to be a strength. So that's exciting. I'm excited to work on that with you. And what I sent you, the initial project, all the materials and everything, she has a very pronounced nose, so that's going to be great. So you're going to get a lot from that, which is fantastic. And yeah, noses are not easy. So what would I say is the hardest part of doing a portrait in my case? The hardest part for me to do a portrait is probably getting the essence of the person, right? I really, that's my main goal. If I can get whatever it is, the essence of that person and the character, that's always the very hardest part for me. And Mr. Astral says, first painting he saw was a Pre-Raphaelite painting. Our art museum has them originals. Now, where are you in the UK? Because in the UK, you guys have a lot of Pre-Raphaelite paintings, which are really great. And Mr. Dave says, I hear noses in my future. Yes, definitely. And I break that nose down into its simplest forms, and you'll never look at a nose again, Dave, I promise you. And Colette says, Dave, you're going to love Tim mentorship classes. Thank you, Colette. I appreciate that. And thank you, Dave. I always appreciate when students trust me with teaching them. It's not something I take very lightly. I don't take lightly at all. It's a definite honor. And my main goal is to impart, my love for painting, and also to accentuate their passion and bring out the abilities that they thought they never had. And not just a one-time thing. I want it to be like all the time, that they're able to repeat it and just grow while they're studying with me, and also when they're not studying with me. Something that they take with them for their whole life, for their whole career as an artist, That's really, really important to me. Birmingham West Midlands. Oh, fantastic. There's a couple of lesser known. One guy is Hughes. Hughes. My voice is changing, huh? That's funny. Hughes, Hughes. He's a lesser known Pre-Raphaelite. Very fantastic. Ford Maddox Brown is a Pre-Raphaelite, maybe a little bit before the Pre-Raphaelites, but still an amazing painter, which is really, really fantastic. So, yeah, I'm heavily influenced, as you can probably see through the body of my work, with the Pre-Raphaelites. Subject matter, with the beauty and the elegance of the female models, is very important to me with my subject matter. So that's why they speak to me. And they're very poetic, right? Dante Gabriel Rossetti was a poet, and a painter. So a lesser known thing is I'm also a poet, but I don't publish. But and I do see the combination or how poetry and painting are very much linked together, you know. Mark says, I have to go. She's beautiful, Timothy. Good night, everyone. Mark from Calgary, take care, my friend. Always a pleasure, and I hope to see you soon. And thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate you, sir. That is so cool. So that is great. And we're just continuing with this, you know, not getting too crazy. I'm going to accentuate this edge here because I want to see that edge, because when I go ahead and come in with the shellac, I'm going to lose a lot of this, so I'm just going to accentuate this a little bit. And you'll see what I mean when we shellac together. It's going to be pretty interesting. So we're getting close to shellac. Shellac minus 7 minutes. S minus 7 minutes. And notice my underpainting is basically that really diluted detail mixture. Why do you, so here's the question, why do I want my underpainting light? I want it light because when I add layers of color, it's going to block the light. And one thing about layers of color, it's going to make it darker in value. And if I have it already the correct value, when I put the layers of color, I'm going to go too dark and I'm going to have to correct. And we all know correcting acrylic paint is not easy. Mr. Gregory, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate you so much and appreciate your friendship, and really looking forward to working with you and in the mentorship. So thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for hanging out on Wednesday, and thank you for hanging out on Saturday. You know, I did an impromptu oil painting session on Saturday, and Dave was there, and that was a great honor. So thank you so much. I appreciate you and, you know, everything you do, sir, and supporting the arts and everything. And now we got to get your art to the next level, right? The next level. That's what we're going to do. We're going to take that art to a level where you are going to be amazed. And that's what I promise to my students. And that's not a sales pitch or anything. That's just what I do, you know, and you all have the talent. So it's like the student has the talent, I just have the ability to bring it out. That's all that is about. So that's really cool. So what I'm going to do is I am going to prepare for the shellac, right? So that means we have to, so it's T minus 5 minutes, so it's going to take a while for me to prepare everything and get everything out of the way, which is really good. The next level shouldn't be hard. Oh, and the level after that, and the level after that, it's going to be fantastic. You're going to see. And, you know, it's so great to have artists at all levels. I'm going to use the young man's room, and I will be right back. I do have a pause button here. And talks amongst yourselves, and I promise to be back and with the shellac. I promise to be back with the shellac. It kind of rhymes. See you guys in a few moments. Okay, I am back with the shellac. So we didn't lose too many people. I'm glad you're still here. Now the first thing I want to do is get some scrap pieces of paper and put it underneath because I don't want to kill my metal board. So, whoops, I have this here. I'm going to put that there like this. And I need one down here. Get my magnets out of the way because I don't want to get shellac on them. And then I'm going to blow air on here. And, oh, Mr. Bobby says he needs to get back in class. Miss Tim, Tim is a great teacher. Thanks, man. I miss our classes together. I appreciate that. JC says, let's see what I miss here. Oh, no problem about the kiss face. That's no problem, man. I appreciate that, Dave. That's pretty funny. And it's good that you use that with the misses, that's for sure. And Tone says, need to see these artists' work that he mentioned. Not sure, not an art historian. Oh yeah, definitely. You're going to love these artists. They're amazing. And let's see what else I missed. Can't imagine that's why we are all here on Wednesdays. Thanks, guys. And so I need another piece of scrap paper. And that's the whole thing about scrap paper. You don't want to use a good piece of paper. So I'm looking for a scrap piece of paper. And this was originally a good piece of paper, but it got destroyed. So now it's a scrap piece of paper. So here we have, you know, it covered. And so when we put the shellac on, it's not going to go on my table or my metal board. And I'm going to make sure that I put it down with magnets here. And it's really quite simple when you think of other mediums to protect, other ways to protect the paper or your board to accept oil paint or varnish or anything like that. So this is a pretty cool technique. And Mr. Bobby says, Tim, are you going to be doing lives every Saturday? Yes. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I don't have an exact time yet, but it's definitely going to go down, which is fantastic. So, and Astral says he woke up for Tim. Even a hurricane couldn't wake him up. Thank you, Astral. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that so much. So now we are right here, and now I'm going to get out the brush I use. You can get this at Hobby Lobby, Michael's. I wouldn't get it at Blick. It's going to be far too expensive. But at Hobby Lobby, Home Depot, this is, what is this? It's like a 3-inch brush. And you're going to throw this away afterwards, right? So keep this aside and blow some air on it. You don't want any dust on this, because that dust is going to go on your shellac. So get rid of any dust that's on there, right? Keep this aside, make sure no little fuzzies get on that. Now we're going to get the shellac. And we need a screwdriver. We need a screwdriver. So this is the shellac. It's Zinsler Bullseye Shellac, and you want to get the clear one. They have an amber, but that's not what you're looking for, right? And it's a Timacane. Yes, those are the best. So I need like a little one. Not all have these little stays on it, right? It just keeps it closed. So actually, what I'll do is I want you all to see this. I'm going to move her aside for now because I want to be as thorough with the teaching of this method as possible. So here we are, and I'm going to show you how I mix it. So we pull this up here, like so, and I'm going to blow with the airbrush any of these little things that might get in there, right? So super diligent, because once you put the shellac down, it's a one-time thing. There's no going over it, right? So you want to be super. Now, one of the things, you don't want to shake this. You want to mix it, but you want to shake it. So you want to stir it, not shake. The opposite of James Bond, you know. He's shaken and not stirred, or I believe that. Alright, so now look at this. This is about 1.5 years of using this technique, and I am probably 1/2 done. So I must have done about 20 paintings. So it's a very inexpensive way, but there's a trade-off, and we'll talk about that trade-off in a moment. So I'm going to use the back of a paintbrush, and I'm going to stir it. Now I don't want to stir it and start rubbing the bottom and the sides, because rust and stuff could get on there and it dries up. So you want less, you don't want any little shellac chips in there. So you're just going to stir it, and stir it about 30 seconds, and really be slow with the stirring. You don't want this to splash anywhere, especially on your skin or on your eyes. I mean, it's all natural. Shellac actually comes from a bug. It comes from a secretion from a bug. It's ancient. It's been used, I think, in the 1500s or even further. It definitely has been used during the Renaissance to do the same thing that I'm doing, to have wood and paper and everything to accept oil paint. Okay, so now we're pretty much set. I'm going to mix it just a little bit because I can see a little dark ring. So we're just going to mix this really well. Yes, the shellac beetle. Exactly. It is a beetle, my friend. So you know. Those who know, know. Okay, so I'm going to move this aside. Have my brush. And I'm almost let go. Let's see. Now, let's get our beautiful angel here. And she is so beautiful. Not my painting, but the angel herself. I'm not saying my painting's beautiful. That would be conceited, and I don't want to be conceited. But the model is beautiful. Okay. Now, here's the thing. When you put the shellac on, you want to go right here. You don't want to put it all the way in the bottom. It's going to soak, and when you put it on there, it's going to be too much shellac. So you want to just hit the bottom. In the beginning, you want to hit the important part, because you want that to be the most control of this would be the most important part, right? And you want to do one layer, and you want to be fast and furious. So here goes. And now watch this. I'm going to go right over the important part, which is her. You know, the face. That's the most important part. And then the other parts you can pretty much kind of make up here and there, which is okay. And believe it or not, that's all you have to do. This little bit that I did here, that's it. She's done. That's simple. Maybe a little bit down here. I might have missed a little bit, but that's it. She's done. And you want to make sure that there's no shellac pooling up anywhere, right? It is scary at first, believe me. Every time it's a little scary. I may do this 3-4 times a month, because I work in this technique in oils and in Createx. And that's it. And let me move this shellac aside. And now this I can actually do oil paints. I can oil paint with this. I can do acrylic. I can do casing. I can do anything. And I could varnish it. I could put 40-50 on this, and it's going to accept it beautifully. And that's it. That's all. Now this, of course, you have to chuck. It's going to become rock hard. You're not going to be able to use it. You wouldn't want to use it anyway for anything. It's contaminated. It cost me $1. You throw it away. $1 is a lot of money. I'm not saying it isn't, but it's not a $20 brush. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to stand on my can, and then I'm going to put these little things back on, and then I'll answer any questions. Hopefully you'll have some questions. It's a really great thing. This can costs like 20 bucks, and it's going to last you at least a year, because I've had this a year, and I don't know too many people who paint as much as I do. So you'll probably last you a couple of years, and you'll be able to work on paper. Now I do suggest that the paper you work on is going to be very heavy duty paper, like 300 GSM or something like that, which is very, very important. Yes, Astral, Archangel Michaela, I love that. So here we are. So this is going to dry. So we have to wait for it to dry, wait for her to dry. And you can see now what I do is I put this in a flat spot, and it'll dry by tomorrow. And the thing is, I never paint on a shellacked piece until 24 hours have transpired, you know? So the shellac I use is this one right here, Mr. Tone. It's basically one of the few that are in existence. It's Zinsser Bullseye Shellac, and it's clear transparent. And I use those foam brushes and do one coat. I've seen people go ahead and let it dry 24 hours and then do a second coat, but I haven't seen it, and I'm not sure it's going to work. I think it would absorb too much into the paper. And I think you want some absorption. You don't want to be painting on something super slick, you know? And how many pieces of artwork do I do a month? I would have to say about 5. About 5 pieces a month. That would be pretty much what I do. I do commissions and portraits, and I work with students, and a lot of times I won't post the work that I'm doing with students until it's done. So I have at all times 6 or 7 paintings going at once. And so on average, I'm painting at least 6 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't have days off because I can't afford them, you know. When I don't feel good, that's when I take some time off, but I don't have like a full day off. So we're letting Michaela dry, right? Astral, that's her name. And so that's really good. And she'll dry flat. It might be a little curly, curl up a little bit, but she'll dry nice and flat. So now, next week when we come in with the Createx, you know, I'm going to be doing the flesh tones with the Lifeline colors. They are so wonderful. It's like working with flesh tones, you know. It's really great, and the shellac surface really handles it perfectly. After that, I'm going to come in with some wicked paints, and we're going to figure out what to do with the background and the feathers of her wing. It's going to be a lot of fun. I am a work artist, a workaholic, right? And so yeah, so that's what I really enjoy doing, and I think you guys and girls will have a lot of fun. We'll have a lot of fun doing it. Now, during the week, I'm going to put up what you can buy for $20, which is the line drawing, the freehand stencils, and you can purchase that, and you could follow along with me, you know, at your own pace. So from the very beginning last week to this week and the subsequent weeks, you could follow along because they're going to be on YouTube. So you can always watch the live streams and follow along. I think that would be really great. So that's cool. And JC says, am I going to be doing live on the weekends? I'm going to do oil painting. I'm going to do an oil painting live stream on Saturday, JC. It's going to be oil painting, with a twist for airbrush painters, right? So it's going to be a lot of airbrush in the beginning, using the underpainting and different things, using the shellac, teaching a lot of things that I do as far as my oil painting techniques. So I think it would be great for people who are oil painters, people who are airbrush artists. It'll be I think it would be very informative and just a lot of fun. So next week we're going to be using the Lifeline colors, and then we're coming in with the big boys, the Wicked paints, which is going to be a lot of fun. And Mr. JC says, you're going to get down and dirty. That's true, right? And it's going to be probably during the day, kind of early. I don't want to be too late on the weekends, but I'm so excited to be working with colors like burnt sienna, detailed burnt sienna, and, all of these colors I miss so much not working with Wicked, right? And, talking to you guys about detailed sepia, and how much I love them, and working with the 4011 and water and the 4050. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that with you all. And let's see, what else will I talk about? So this Saturday, and also I'm going to send an email when I have those stencils ready to sell and everything on the website. So let me know. And so this is fun. So everyone out there who's in the path of Hurricane Helene, please be careful. My prayers are out for you. I want you to be safe. If you have to go in the shelter, go in the shelter and ride this thing out, but make sure you're safe. If you're on the ocean, get out, don't be on the ocean. Make sure you go inland, stay with friends, family, that sort of thing. That's really important. Bobby, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, my friend. And JC, you and your family, I just care about them being safe. I don't care about anything else. We can always buy another house, another car, but, we can always rebuild. But make sure you guys are all safe, And hold on to your coconuts, Astral says. I can't repeat the second sentence, but it is very funny. That's hilarious. So a little bit earlier today, I hope that the thing about, doing the what I do with the shellac, I hope it was helpful. And if you have any questions, just, write in the comments. I'll be glad to answer any questions about shellac, the pros and cons, if there are any. Okay, here's a real con for the way that I work on the gray paper and the shellac. There's not much erasing, because if you erase it, it's just going to be going to the darker color. So erasing is really not an option with this technique working with paper. So that's the one thing that I think might be a downside. So guys, have a great night. Thank you, Mr. Gregory, for the super chat. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Mr. Dwayne for the super chat. You're amazing. Thank you so much, guys, for your friendship and support. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me on a Wednesday. I really appreciate yous. And I hope to see you all during the week, and definitely next Wednesday. And for those who came by for the first time, thank you so much. And, your time on a Wednesday night means a lot to me. Take care, everyone.